Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In case you're new here, my name is Laura and I'm a PhD student of comparative literature in Germany. And my PhD thesis focuses on literary hermeneutics, the study of understanding and interpreting literary texts, in which I focus especially on the question what makes literary texts differ from other texts and text forms, and what makes their aesthetic quality. And in this series on literary theory, I want to focus especially on two fields or traditions. One of them is hermeneutics, the study and art of understanding and interpreting, especially of texts. And the other is called analytical aesthetics. Aesthetics is the study of artworks and art in general, asking questions such as what makes art art, what makes art worth experiencing, what makes art beautiful, worthwhile, and what makes it important. And the analytical approach is a special branch of philosophy that has a special analytical perspective on this. I will explain it further in the series. And these are the fields that I want to talk about mostly in this series. And I also want to show you how both of these traditions can be connected and how many similarities they actually have, although they are mostly treated separately, because this is one of my most important ideas in my thesis, that these two fields can be combined. And I quickly want to tell you what I want to cover in the series. First, I want to start out with talking a little bit about hermeneutics in general. What is hermeneutics about? Why is it important? What kind of an influence did it have in literary theory and literary interpretation? What is its role today? What is its influence? I will start by looking at the 19th century, which brought about the scholar Friedrich Schleiermacher, who has had a great influence on hermeneutics. And I will later talk about some of his pupils, such as Wilhelm Dilthey, for example. Later I will also talk about the events in the 20th century, which brought about a change within hermeneutics, shifting from the philological hermeneutics more to the philosophical hermeneutics, such as the ideas brought about by Martin Heidegger and Hans-Georg Gadamer, which made hermeneutics some kind of an existential form of existential understanding yourself through others in communication. I will go deeper into detail on that. I will also talk a little bit about the changes that were brought about on hermeneutics and also the shift away from hermeneutics, starting within the 1970s to the postmodern movements such as deconstructivism, post-structuralism, and ideas like these, which were brought about by people such as Roland Barthes, Michel Foucault, Jacques Derrida. All of these, especially in France, brought many doubts to whether hermeneutics was even making sense, whether it was reasonable to seek meaning in a text and to try to get something out of it instead of just leaving the text as it was and trying to show how many layers it has and how inexhaustible the interpretations could be in a way. These were influences that are still important today, but I want to show that hermeneutics is also still relevant today and how we can use it these days and make use of it in a progressive and reasonable way. And in my second part, I want to talk about aesthetics. I want to start by talking a little bit about the tradition of aesthetics, starting in the 18th century after the Enlightenment, and it was especially transformed and created by Alexander Baumgarten and Georg Friedrich Meyer, also by Immanuel Kant. He had a great influence on aesthetics, and especially in the 20th century, the analytical aesthetics in the philosophy got greater influence, and they are also influential today in literary theory. And I want to show you how and why, and how this shifted the idea of what makes an object aesthetic or aesthetically pleasing, what makes an aesthetic experience, what makes the aesthetic qualities of a literary work, especially in artworks in general. There's so many thinkers and so many ideas that it will be difficult to cover, as well as the hermeneutics. I will try my best to give you an overview and to show you how these ideas can be actually executed also in real life, like real interpretations. So that's what my third part will be basically about. It will be about demonstrating how the methodological approaches of these traditions can be executed in practice. I will show you how I interpret texts based on these ideas that hermeneutics and analytical aesthetics bring about, and I will show you what makes sense of it and what doesn't, and how we can navigate that. So what are the useful parts of these and what aren't, and why I think both of these traditions have so much in common at once, but also so much to provide for us today still for our interpretation, because literary forms emerge over time, everything changes and shifts, but there's still so much that we can get out of these traditions. And that's what I want to show you. So I want to analyze some of the literary texts, also some of them that I've been talking about on this channel before. If you haven't noticed, I have several different series going on here. I have a series on fantasy and science fiction literature in which I cover epic texts, but also poetry and drama from the ancient times to nowadays. I'm starting with the ancient times. I started with the Epic of Gilgamesh and then went on to the Odyssey. The next video will be about the Ramayana, an Indian epic, also from ancient times, which is very interesting. I will talk about the Metamorphoses and other texts. Then I will also go slowly into the Middle Ages. I will talk about things such as the Beowulf and the Arthurian legends. I will talk about many different texts. I will also go on and talk about other heroic and adventurous stories. I will go into things such as the Journey to the West from China. I will talk about Gulliver's Travels. I will talk about Jules Verne, about Alice in Wonderland and other texts. Some of them are very well known, others aren't known at all, I think, or I haven't seen them talked about on YouTube a lot. But I think most of them are really, really interesting and really worth looking into. And I want to give you just like brief introductions and also some background ideas and thoughts that come up when I read the stories, and things I think are worth thinking further about. And this series here, the idea behind that is that I want to share a little bit of my PhD work with you and show you what I'm working on and what are the ideas that I find really inspiring, what makes literary theory important, what kinds of literary theory we have, what kinds of traditions and ideas. And as I feel my expertise is the greatest within hermeneutics and analytical aesthetics, I will start with that. Let's see whether I will stop there, but for now I think that's what I can talk about best, and I hope you're interested in that. The next video will be about Friedrich Schleiermacher and his influence on hermeneutics and the whole field of understanding and interpreting not only literature but texts in general, and also speech actually, and that's really interesting as well. I will talk about that and how these are different or connected. I hope you enjoy the video, and if you did and you want to follow along, you can check the other series down below. I will also have a series on Japanese literature as well, and there's also another series on Gothic and Romantic literature from the 18th and 19th century. I did a lot of videos on that before from last year, so if you want to look into those, they are also linked below. Consider subscribing to the channel, would be great. It would help my little channel grow a lot, and I would appreciate that. I would also appreciate if you commented down below what you find interesting, whether you're interested in hermeneutics or aesthetics and why, and what you want to hear about maybe, or what you want to have covered in the series. Thank you very much for your attention and for sticking along until the end, and see you in my next video. Bye bye.